4:30, and we said that we'd start the meeting at 4:30. We're just going to be a few more minutes as people are signing in. We're going to make sure that we have enough chairs, and so we'll be ready to go in just a handful of minutes. And thanks for being here. And then talk amongst yourselves.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Doing great. Ooh, here she comes. It's just walking down the street.
Doesn't she look great?
What? DJ Humphreys. I know, aren't they nice? Can we pick up some seats? Let's have it be quiet in the house. Oh, that's the way you do it.
Yeah, great.
Hi, everybody. My name is Debbie Katz.
My name's Meg Lyle.
And we just want to welcome you all here tonight. We know that a lot of people made special arrangements to be here early. Do you want me to go like this, Louie? This is a picture-taking thing. And we just wanted to kind of set up the conversation for you tonight and share with you why you're here. So, but first, you want to look and see who's here in the room. And
yeah, so let's just take a look. This started from a conversation we had down in Boca, and it's almost a continuation of that. And you've all been here handpicked by your Upline Pres team. So let's just see, how many special World Team members? Do you want to start World Team? Or
how many people have been in the business for a year?
A year, that's right. Let's just see.
Raise your hands.
Let's see, a year.
How about
a year?
A year?
A year or less. Thank you, Michael.
The wrong way to do a countdown, right? Count up. All right, so a year or less. Cool. Welcome to Herbalife.
Wow.
That's great.
Congratulations.
That's great. And how many people have been here 2 years or less? Great.
All
Congratulations.
Right. Good. Couple.
Awesome. How about 3 years or less?
3 years or less. Wow.
Wow.
So a couple. Okay.
4 years? Wow.
Wow, that's got the most hits
There we go.
so
A little
far.
retention there. How about 5 years? All right.
5 years. Okay.
6 years?
Wow, Betty's 6.
7 years? You're the only 7 year?
7 years.
Wow, that's cool.
Shay.
That was a good year.
Shay. 7.5. Shay's got 7.5.
Okay. How about 8 years?
Wow.
Congratulations. How about 9? 9 years,
Wow.
Bobby? Oh, great.
Great.
You've been in 9, Louie? Okay. How about 10 years?
Yay, Jody.
All right, Jody.
Johnny Franchetti. All right.
Johnny?
Cool.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
How about
How about 11 years?
11?
11?
Well, Rob Levy.
Rob Levy,
Yay.
11 years. Hey, I didn't see a 9-year hand. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
And
wow.
then,
All right.
how long, where are we at?
12.
years.
12.
12 years?
13.
13?
13,
Oh,
Lana.
13
Great.
years, all right.
Okay,
How
great.
about 14 years?
14 years. No.
You're only 14 years old.
That's when you got started.
Oh, that's when you got started. Okay. All right, 15 years.
Yeah, I'm
15?
like, oh my gosh, Mike and Deb.
Yeah. All right, who's
16.
higher than 15? Let's go 15 and above. So we got Mike McKee, how many years?
Oh my gosh.
Today. All right. All right. Congratulations.
Wow.
Happy anniversary. How about you, Bruce Peters? 19
Wow.
years. Great job. Wow. You must really like us, don't you? You must really like the distributors. How about you, Leslie? How long?
Well,
Are you kidding?
oh my
25 years
gosh.
in December? Woo! All right.
Wow.
You know, I just think about the possibilities. Let's say I've been in 15 years, 10 years from now, what it's going to look like, you know?
Oh my
so,
gosh.
hey.
Ah.
I'm all up for it, baby.
Gosh, that's great.
Anybody we miss?
Mark?
Marky Mark.
Wow.
23 years.
And we're actually 16 years, so Paul and I are 16.
You're 16 too? Oh, yeah, you were a year before us.
Yeah, the year before.
Oh, you sponsored us, didn't you?
Hey! Why?
That's cool. So, first of all, I want all the President's team members to please just stand up for a second.
Let's just see.
I just want you guys to really get who the Pres team members are here.
Chairman's class can stand up. Chairman's class.
Chairman's Club.
Chairman's
That's a club.
Great.
Yeah, we said Chairman's Club. So people were clapping, you know. It's kind of like, this isn't scripted. We don't,
Right.
you know, it's like we're family here. And the thing that you guys have to realize is that you're the leadership. Everybody in here was handpicked and invited to be here. There are people that couldn't make the arrangements to get here that were also invited. And you're invited for a couple of reasons. One, because of who you are. Your commitment to the business. Your commitment to your families. How you work, your work ethics. And just the sheer fact that you want to change people's lives. That's why you're here. And you want to move business forward, okay? And that's the true sense of essence of this meeting. In the back, we do have a lot of the corporate staff here. They're here because of you guys. They're committed to your success and to what's coming out of this weekend. And but truly, it's going to be an extraordinary conversation for possibility and moving our businesses forward. Because, I don't know, you know, how this kind of happened, and Meg shared a little bit earlier, is lots of conversations started to happen. And it's really healthy to step back for a minute and really look at your business and to analyze what works and what doesn't work. Isn't that what we always do every single day? At the end of the day, we say, you know, what works, what doesn't work. And these conversations have, gone around the world. And then they came to just a month ago, the 1st of September, we all got together, a group of us, and we really started discussing, because guess what? The Herbalife business isn't easy all the time, right? And we struggle. There's some struggles that happen in the Herbalife business, you know? It's definitely funner to struggle with money than without. I've done both, you know? But it's like we looked at it like there has to be a way that we can build our businesses and go forward without the struggle, you know?
For me, the conversation was just amazing. It opened up so much to see what I was doing in this business for so long and what I was passionate about. Somewhere along the line, for myself, and you'll hear when the conversation unfolds, it had felt like a job almost after 16 years. And I was not inspired. And this conversation definitely opened my eyes back to inspiration, passion, and what, making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thrilled. This was the next thing to have happen, is to expand the conversation to you guys to the leaders, because that's how it's going to get even fine-tuned, and we're going to, really make whatever's missing for you in your businesses. And listen, you're all in different places. Some of you brand new guys may not be in exactly the same conversation, but will be able to say what's missing in your business so that if it were put in, it's going to make a huge difference for you. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, because some of you might be in a place where everything's just great. Some of you might be in a place where it's not so great. Some of you might be in a place where, now, what happened? How come I'm here? It doesn't matter where you're at. So, we're laughing because we can get it.
Yeah.
That's just kind of where we're at. So tonight, the commitment is to move everything forward and to be a force to be reckoned with, for sure. But we have somebody that's pretty special to our hearts that, all right, I'm not going to do this, but that's going to lead this conversation. Yeah. And Meg wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say, this guy, anytime I've been around him, and I've just had the privilege of having him spend some time in our house, he's always looking to see how this business can be better, how we can be better, what's missing. He's always engaged in this conversation when I've been around him, and it was just such an honor to be part of that conversation in Boca, and I want to just personally thank him, and I'll let Debbie bring him up. I'm going to switch my mic now. So.
Okay, so the person that we're going to bring up in the conversation, we just want you to, it's not about Stefan Graziani. It's truly about where you're going to find yourself in the conversation tonight. So, be with him. Discover along the way. You might move through lots of emotions, maybe not. I don't know. But this guy I met this guy on a snorkeling trip on an Herbalife vacation, and I got the best picture of this guy with the snorkeling gear on his face. And, he's got a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children, and the guy has operated inside of integrity in building his Herbalife business and also in his friendships. And there's not a price that you can put on the character of a human being. He is a 30K President's Team member. He has 4 diamonds. He's working on his 5th. And he's very inspired after the meeting that we had in September to actually work on that 5th. And but I'd like to bring up a really close and dear friend of ours, Stefan Graziani. Why don't you come on up?
Is that better? Yes, much better. Perfect, thank you. Wow, what an introduction, Meg. Debbie, thank you very much. And it really is a pleasure to be here tonight. And I know that some of you had to change things around to get in a day early. And how many of you were on the tour today? What did you guys think about that? Unbelievable. We can thank the company for that. I truly believe that this weekend is going to be, and we say this often, probably one of the most important weekends that the company's ever had. No question for here in the United States, and I think even worldwide, what's taking place is going to be amazing. The title of this is kind of the pre-meeting to the university, and in some ways it really is a pre-meeting. And it's a pre-meeting in the fact that what we're going to do before we go into the weekend is to kind of look at the reality of our business and where things are at, not only on kind of a personal level as we do this throughout the night, but also just a general level. And it's actually not something that we do very often. I mean, if you think of all of the trainings that you've been to in Herbalife, how many of you have been to at least 5 trainings, whether it's been an STS or an international, or an event like this? How many of you have been to 10? How many of you have been to 20? How many of you have been to 30? Leslie's like, keep going. Once you hit the triple digits, then I'll start raising my hand, right? 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 plus events. I mean, as we are distributors and we're developing our business, we do spend a lot of our time in events, in trainings, and this type of a conversation is not something that we have very often in meetings. In meetings most of the time it's to give a pitch on something in one way or another, to kind of teach maybe a new technique, to to launch some new products, to launch some new tools, to celebrate, to recognize, all of those things that we do very often. But it's not very often where we actually will start to kind of look at, and I don't want to say that we don't look at the reality very often, but with everything that there is in the company and everything is so fast-moving, sometimes we don't take the time maybe to step aside and look at how things are going. And that's what we're going to do tonight, which is going to be kind of an interesting conversation. And to give you a little bit of background, I've been with Herbalife a little bit more than 14 years. I'm originally from the U.S. I was born in Portland, Oregon, and from about the age of 15, I became very passionate about cycling. And at 19, I moved to France to race bicycles. I wanted to become Lance Armstrong, although Lance, at the time was probably not even racing. But that was kind of my dream at the time. And I did that for a few years. But really after a few years, I realized that it wasn't, going to happen for me that way. And I was very lucky to walk into an Herbalife meeting in Paris, France, and this was in June of 1991, and be introduced to this company, be introduced to the people that were distributors in the company, the people also that worked in the company as corporate people, and my Herbalife business started. And it's funny when I look back, it's almost magical how the whole thing happened. Just me being in the room, first of all, and then joining this company where there was and is just so much excitement and just so much unbelievable results with the products and so much money and income and recognition and lifestyle and just, the dream business for people. And for myself, from the moment I started, it was like immediately I wanted to be successful in this business. And I think that most of you, how many of you can recognize that? When you got started, and I imagine if you're in the room today and you've been in the amount of time that you've been in and you're still here today, and not only are you here, but you're here as World Team, Get Team, Millionaire Team, President Team, that somewhere along the line you have a serious commitment and a desire to be successful, and not just probably a little bit successful, but hugely successful. How many of you can see that for yourselves, that somewhere along the line you got committed to that? And, if we could go and listen to everyone, as I heard people that were talking that have been in the business for, 23 years, 24 years, 25 years, 20 years, 15 years, 16 years, if you actually had the time to listen to what their history was, about how their business went and the ups and the downs that they lived through, it would be amazing, because every one and every one of you have gone through moments in your business maybe where things were really going for you, and then other moments where it wasn't happening. And you may have gone through moments that were very difficult. I mean, how many of you were ever at a point in your business where really you didn't know if you were going to make it, if you were going to be able to hold on to being an Herbalife distributor, or whether you were going to have to leave and go do something else? Yet, you held on. And yet, what ended up happening, if you've been in long enough, is that you held on long enough and things started happening and you reached another level of success. Okay? And then, sure enough, there's a probability that somewhere along the line, something happened again. And it was not that easy again. And sure enough, you held on because you're in the room until the next level. And that's kind of, if I look at my own story in Herbalife, my own history, that's kind of the way the business went for me. I mean, in the beginning when I signed up, it was very, very new in France. Basically, I don't even remember what exactly I did. I mean, I just remember I talked to people about the products, and I knew one thing for sure is that we had something called Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and that I could count on those meetings being there, and that I would just try to get as many people into those meetings as possible. And somehow, some way, I had an organization that started. People joined. People made decisions to become supervisors. People went to larger events, saw the bigger picture of Herbalife. Some of them stayed, many of them left. But by some kind of magic way, I ended up with an organization. I ended up with a group of people that were, like me, committed to building a business. And how many of you can see for yourselves that that's kind of, in a way, what happens to you? You're just doing what you do, and then all of a sudden, someone sticks, per se, and you have someone. And then all of a sudden, life gets a little bit more complicated, because before it was only you, but now it's you and that person that's there also. So now it's, and you have an interest. You have a real interest that it works for them, because somehow if it works for them, it's going to be working for us. We kind of go along, and I can remember, it took me 11 months to get to the Get team. I can't remember exactly what I did or how many people I talked to or how many people came to meetings, but, I got enough people, and there was enough things going on and enough promotions and events, and people committed that the Get team happened. And as soon as it was Get team, and that's kind of another interesting thing, we have all these commitments. How many of you are on the World team right now? Like, how many of you want the Get team so bad you can taste it? You know what I mean? It's like, it consumes like a major part of you. Like you are going to make this, it's going to get done. And every time you walk into an event, okay, this weekend, as the Get team are being recognized on stage, there's that thing inside of you that's like, this time I'm going to do it. I'm not coming to another event being a World team member. How many of you have said that to yourselves before? I'm not coming to another event being a World team member. It's finished, it's over, it's done. Next time, I'm going to be a Get team. Now, here's the question. How many of you, that the next time you came, you were not a Get team yet? Yet you were committed to it, and yet you're hardworking, and yet, you have, everything to make it happen, but it's like almost a struggle sometimes to get there. It's a struggle because there's all of these things that you have to manage. You have to manage, paying the bills. You've got to manage getting new customers. You've got to manage getting new distributors. You've got to manage taking care of the old distributors. You've got to manage taking care of the old customers. And there's just all of these things. And yet there's this goal that's there called getting to the Get team for you. And, sometimes we have a feeling we take one step forward, 2 steps back. And it just seems that time goes on and things don't happen to go or evolve the way we'd like them to. And I can remember distinctly in my business that getting to the millionaire team, it was a period of time where most people, 11 months to the Get team, at the time France was opening and it was kind of a new momentum, it was like an average time. Some people had done it quicker. I had a friend, it's actually I'm the godfather of his daughter. His name is Sylvain Deschamps. He made it to the president team in 11 months. 11 months, and I made it to the Get team in 11 months, and we started, more or less the same time. And it took me 3 years to get to the millionaire team. But I first started to qualify after 2 years. It took me 1 year to finally get 4 months in a row, or 3 months in a row of the 4,000. It was like so hard to get there. And then guess what? When I got there, it took me another 1.5 years to ever get my check back up to 4,000. To be able to get the bonus, the benefit of being a millionaire team member. But the toughest was president team. Because from the time that I was a millionaire team, 3 years into the business, it took me another 3 years to get to the president team. And, some of you could say, well, wow, 6 years of the president team, I'll buy that. That's totally acceptable for me. I'll accept that as a time. But at the time, with everything that was going on and the new markets that were opening, 6 years to the president team was a very long time. If some people were doing it in 11 months and, people were doing it in a couple of years. And I felt, especially for the amount of travel and the time and the energy that I was putting in. When I made it to the president team, it took me another 3 years to ever get a president team check. So, for myself, my experience of building my business was really an experience of struggle. That even when I got to the president team, to maintain it, or even, the goal was to build it, but to maintain it even, it wasn't that straightforward for me. And, for yourselves in the room here, we each of you have your own individual situations. You have your own individual experience of what's happened for you in your business, how quickly it took you to get to, the World team, to the Get team, to the millionaire team, to the president team. And you have also, what happened after that. If you're a president team in the room or a millionaire team member or a Get team member, you have the work to get there, and then you have the after, okay? And in general, here's the question. In general, do you find that it's just not that easy to have a business that grows in a stable way? In general, is that something that you would say is kind of a truthful statement about the Herbalife business? Would you say that in general? Yeah, and that's pretty much through the statistics. If we look at it, it's the reality of our business, which is the reason why we're here tonight, actually. And the reason why we're here tonight is that, like Debbie said and like Meg said, there's people around the world that have now been experiencing the Herbalife business for 25 years in the United States, for example, to 20 years in Europe, to 10, 15 years. And with certain people, there's a general sense of, you know what, it seems to be kind of an ongoing struggle to grow the business, maintain the business, and is that something that's going to be forever, okay? And here's what's interesting about tonight. We're going to spend the first half of the night, and it's not a depressing conversation, but it's going to be a realistic conversation. And it's not in our normal way of doing things. You know, there's some people that if they heard that we were talking like this in a room, you know, I would have to have a bulletproof vest on right now. You know what I mean? Because we have a tendency sometimes to only look at the good side of things and to kind of highlight the good stories or the quick stories. And sometimes what it does is it puts a lot of questioning on us. In the year 2000, in 1999, going into the year 2000, I was very close to stopping Herbalife. And the reason why I was very close to stopping Herbalife is because I really felt that there was something wrong with me. Because I had spent literally 9, 10 years of my life trying to build a business, and yet I saw around me all of these people that had success, that were making millions of dollars, that, you know, really had the business that I wanted, and somehow, with all of my effort and all of my time and all of, you know, my travels, I was unable to do what they had done. So for me, it really came down to, I must be doing something wrong. Or maybe it's just not for me, this business. You know, maybe I don't have what it takes, or maybe, you know, it's not working out for me. And honestly, I looked at doing something else because I was unsatisfied. And when I think about in my organization, and I'll go through kind of some numbers with you, most of the people at the point that I was at, most of the people that left the business that were the committed people, they all reached that point where they got to a point where, you know what, it wasn't working. It wasn't growing the way they wanted it to. And, you know, whether they took it out on themselves and said it was, you know, I don't have what it takes, or I'm just not made for this business, or this business isn't made for me, or they just made the decision that they were going to go on and do something else. When I look at that, you know, there's almost a sense of, and I do this, you know, I go into my organization and look to see really what's happened. And, you know, some of the guys with the company, they know that I'm kind of, you know, infatuated with numbers and statistics and things like that. But it's almost a painful experience to see all of the good people that I've lost over the years that invested literally years of their lives into a business and then they left. It's you know, if I really think about it, and some of them were close friends that became close friends through doing the business. So a lot of my questioning in 1999 and 2000 was really like, hey, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? And if I'm not going to do it, when I made the decision that I wasn't going to go and do something else, that I was going to do something that was going to change it all. And that was a decision I made in 2000. And the decision was that, you know what, to have a business like I had in the first 9 years, I wasn't interested in continuing on like that. It just wasn't interesting for me to spend, you know, another 3 years or 5 years or 10 years doing what I'd done the last 9 years to produce more or less the same result. It wasn't going to be interesting for me. So I made a commitment to look at doing the business not in a different way, but maybe starting to inquire on what wasn't working for me. You know, what was it that I was doing that my business was not having the level of success that I wanted? And I'll give some kudos here because I believe they deserve it. You know, one of the things that impacted me the greatest was Kurt and Cindy O'Connell, because they brought a concept of mentoring and a concept of a business plan and following a business plan. And to be perfectly honest with you, it was almost revolutionary for me. I was someone that basically was just, you know, recruiting and building an organization, and very rarely stopped to think about taking care of the organization that I had. And the commitment that I made in 2000 was that I wasn't going to do that anymore. I wasn't going to recruit anybody anymore, and I was going to stop and I was going to look at my organization and I was going to see what was missing and what I could bring that would have things work for them. And don't take this that you should stop right now recruiting. I could also get shot for that if you ever left here and said that. But I want to get a point across that for me, there was a shift. And the shift was that maybe the way I've been doing business for the last 9 years and the results that it was producing, maybe it didn't have to go on that way. That was the shift for me. And that if there were some concepts and some ideas and thoughts, that if I could just change the way I looked at building an organization, working with an organization, that could change things. And you want to know what happened? It did change things. You know, I went from someone that for 3 years never had a president team check to in the year 2000 having almost a solid president team check that year. Financially, in 1999, I think I made like $150,000, $160,000 that year. In 2000, it was $250,000. In 2001, it was $360,000. In 2002, it was $560,000. In 2003, it was $820,000. Last year was over $1.1 million. This year already is already over $1.25 million, and there's still 2 months left in the year. And I went from someone that was a millionaire team for literally 4 years with the president team below. I wasn't even a president team member when I got my first president team member, to then having 3 additional president team members come on board over the last 4 years. So all of that, and kudos really to Kurt and Cindy O'Connell, because the concepts that they brought, it made me stop, it made me think and look at how I was building my business and what I could change that would make an impact. So the good news is, and the result that I just talked to you, or just said, you know, you might, I mean, how many of you would say, wow, you really fixed things? You know what I mean? I mean, you found the key. I mean, you know, give us, I mean, what did you do to go from making $160,000 to 5 years later, you know, by the end of the year, you know, $1.35 million? What did you do to have your income grow 10 times? Okay, how many of you are interested in that, by the way? Okay, well, so let me tell you what I learned during those 5 years. Here's what I've learned. And it's really kind of been that I've been the type of person that does analyze things maybe very deep. What I learned is that I did very well, and I did better than I did in the first 9 years at a couple of things. One, about giving a business plan to people that made sense to them and was logical and that they were willing to follow, that produced a result. That was one of the things that I learned. Two, I learned that by putting into my organization certain concepts and ideas, that I could change the way my organization looked and thought about things. And those are really the two things that made the major difference. One is bringing a plan that made sense to people, one that they could see themselves following, and that produced the results. And two, bringing concepts and ideas into my organization that could really change the way they looked and thought about things. And those are really the two things that I did. The good news is that my organization grew like crazy. My income grew like crazy. The amount of TAB team members, if I go back, you know, to 2001, I had 40 TAB team members in my organization. I have almost 170 now. So it worked. There were things that worked about it. The only problem is, what I really learned more than the other two things, was that more doesn't mean better all of the time. And here's what I mean. When I look at and analyze my TAB team members from the year 2001, and when I analyze them from now, statistically there's no difference in the success of the TAB team. I have more of them, but I still have the same percentage of people doing their bonus. I still have the same percentage of people that are, you know, doing what their necessity is for their personal volume. I still have the same average royalty override, more or less, for the Get team, the Millionaire team. It's just more of the same. It's no different than before, except for it's better to have, you know, 6,000 supervisors in your organization than it is to have 2. That's one of the things I learned. Okay, more is better in that way. But fundamentally, it didn't really change. So, you know, here's the thing. Where I'm coming from is not like there's something wrong. it's not like there's anything wrong. I mean, trust me, there's a lot of things that are right, okay? You know, if you're making $1 million a year, I mean, Leslie may have difficulty living with that kind of income, but for the majority of people, for the majority of people, you know, there's nothing wrong with making that type of income, and that would be considered in Herbalife standards a very successful story. You know, I'm clear that my chairman's club is around the corner. It's fine. But for me, it doesn't feel like fine. You know, it doesn't feel like fine because it's just more of the same. So a lot of the last year, and here's what I did do, because I did realize I wanted to change, and I've always been focused on changing those statistics, and the company's primary focus is changing the retention, okay? But there is a reality to the statistics in our company. You know, there is a reality, and these are official. They're not something that's, you know, a company secret or information, so I'm going to share it with you because I believe that it's fundamental, because you may find that you're no different than I am, except maybe you have less than I have, okay? But in reality, the results that you've produced have been the results that we've all produced, nothing different. You know, we know that literally we lose a very large percentage of our supervisors every single year. Okay, how many of you lose a lot of your supervisors every single year? How many of you have that happening in your business? Okay, we know that we lose, for the ones that aren't supervisors, basically 9 out of 10 people. So for the distributors that don't make it to supervisor, we're losing 90% of our distributors. Okay, how many of you you didn't know 90%, but you knew you were losing a lot, right? So that's kind of the reality of this, and that's kind of the start of where this comes from. Because to be honest with you, it's no different. I mean, I can only talk for my organization. I can only talk for, you know, the fact that realistically I'll lose probably 2,500 supervisors, if not 3,000 supervisors this year. You know, that's probably the reality of it. But you want to know something? It's better to have 3,300. Okay? And guess what? That is the way our business, in my opinion, for the last 25 years to some extent, we've had a tendency to look at things. Why do I say that? Because if I take the last 5 years, and let's say that I've lost on the last 5 years 10,000 supervisors, okay, just in my own personal organization, what I have remaining gives me my organizational volume. What I have remaining gives me my infinite volume. And last month was my biggest month ever from an organizational standpoint. It's getting close to 3 million volume points in my organization. And it's a lot. And you know what? The income is fantastic. But the 10,000 that left, and those are just supervisors, okay? Realistically, there's probably 50 to 60,000 distributors that I've lost over the last 5 years. Okay, so if we look at those numbers and we just go off of 50,000 and we say 60,000 in whole, what would it be like if those 60,000 people hadn't left? Yeah, I mean, what would it be like? What would it be like if those 60,000 people were only consuming $100 worth of products a month? What would it be like? 60,000 times 100, how much is that? Yeah. That would be adding literally 2 times more business than I have right now onto my business every single month. Now, there's kind of always that little thing that's there that says, yeah, but that's not really a reality, right? I mean, doesn't that come up really quick? And why does that come up? Because we know that we're not going to keep all of our people. And we know that that's just the way that it is. That's why it comes up. But what if we could? What if there was a way that things could shift where we would have more people staying than going? What if it was possible? That is, for me, the reason why I'm still in this business today and I haven't retired. And I'll be honest with you. This year, and I had shared that with some of you, and some of you may know that in the beginning of this year I had found out that my son, 2 years old, was autistic. And it's the first time where I really thought about, you know what, maybe it's time for me just to really, put the business aside. $1 million a year, you know what, I can live good with that. I knew also, and I know also that, hey, if things go down a little bit, I'm at least guaranteed to make $500,000. What if worst case, worst scenario, some of my leaders, they go brain dead, and something happens in some of the countries, and so on and so forth, and there's some loss of momentum. I'll still always, for myself, be able to have an income and have a lifestyle that is a good lifestyle. And it also came from that insatisfaction about really that all the work that I had done produced more of the same, but it really didn't change things. So, it was very good, actually, to be honest with you. I think it was a godsend. It was a godsend that I took time off this year, and it was a godsend that I started to really kind of think about the situation with myself, my family, and the future. That more of the same for me isn't good enough anymore. That I have too many friends in my organization, and I have too many friends outside of my organization, and I have too much love, and I care too much about this company to just let that be the future. And, it's funny because I've been sharing this now with people, the people that are your uplines that invited you here this weekend. And I've been sharing that with people that I work and have as my best friends and people around the world that I know. And you know what? It's funny. Over the last 9-10 months, I really feel like we've come to a point where we are going to have a future that we never thought was possible. And that's what tonight is about. We're going to talk about a future that, and it's not, here's the beauty of it, it's not even complicated. The beauty is it's so simple, and it's just so clear and so uncomplicated that it's impossible that it doesn't happen. And that's for me, the most exciting thing. So this conversation that we're going to have now, it's really coming from that place, okay? And it's not like something's wrong, but let me ask you an honest question in the room. How many of you are at a point for yourselves where really you're asking yourselves about your future in Herbalife? You're at that point. How many of you are at that point? Yeah, and one of the things about tonight is this is going to be a very honest and open conversation. And it almost, to really get what's going to happen, it really almost has to really be there. A level of honesty about the results that you've produced, that I've produced, that we've produced as a company, and the reasons why those results are the way that they are. And by being honest about that in the situation, it really gives a lot of power to having something shift. So when I look at the 60,000 people that I've lost over the last 5 years, and I say, you know what? It's kind of funny. 60,000 people that came, they bought an IBP. The IBP had a product in it. They had a sponsor that should have had, or had an intention to have them get a result on the products. I mean, isn't that something that we do every time we sign someone up? We have a commitment to have them have a result because we know it's important for the business and we know that it's important for them. They had access to training. They had all access to an STS. They had access to information. They had they had access to everything. And yet the 60,000 people came and left. And those 60,000 people today, they don't even use our products. They're not even consuming the products. So how could it be that 60,000 people could come and go who signed up in one of the best nutritional companies in the world with the best products in the world, and yet they don't even use our products? They didn't even become consumers. They're not even, how can it be? And that's really kind of what we're going to question tonight. Because if we can figure out why it happened, that they came and left, do you think that we could figure out maybe how to get them to stay? Yeah, like a logical answer to what might have them stay, okay? So, first of all, let's look at the numbers. 60,000 people. These 60,000 people primarily, why do you think they came into the business? Primarily. Yeah, you can just say it, you can say it out loud. Money. Opportunity, money, right? We know a percentage came through the products but isn't it funny, the ones that kind of come through, they were a customer first and they become a distributor because they want a discount, those are kind of the ones that have a tendency to stay using the products. We always try to make sure they're going to get into the business and, that they go, but it's kind of funny. We don't normally have a tendency to lose those people. The ones that were customers, they became distributors because they wanted a discount and so on and so forth. But we really have a tendency to lose the people that came for a business opportunity, okay? And the funny thing is they came and they left. So definitely they didn't have success financially in the business, because if they would have been successful financially, they would have stayed, right? Okay, so this is what we want to look at. We know the difference it could make. I mean, to be honest with you, from the company's standpoint, the 5, the 10, the $20 billion a year, it's all here. It's all in this. I mean, it's all in, literally, if the company, could change 10% of the amount of distributors that come and go in our business every year, I mean, $5 billion is a shoo-in. I mean, it's like the impacts of that is just huge, okay? Because if I look at 100, if the 60,000 we're consuming, then basically that'd be an extra 6 million in volume points, okay, monthly. And guess what? If they were consuming and they were selling to someone, then what would it be? Yeah, huge. And if they were successful at that, then you can see how it could become even so much more. I mean, how many of them would just then want to move up? How many of them would get committed? How many of them? So we're going to go into a question about what would it take to have our distributors, when they come into our company, become distributors that become the consumers of our products, become passionate about it, and also are in action doing something that works for them, okay? So we're going to talk about the marketing plan also, but before we do that, I want to talk about what it is for you, because the 60,000 left, but there are people that stayed, right? Okay? What had them stay? What made them stay? This is really an interesting question. And this group specifically, there's something specific about you that has you being here. And the reality is the thing that's specific about you that has you being here is you have a commitment to build a business and to have a level of success with this company. That's really what's unique about this room. A lot of the distributors, they don't have that commitment, and that's okay too. But this specific room does have a big commitment to make it an Herbalife. And to make it an Herbalife for you, you have an idea of a way that happens. Okay, and we're going to talk about something that's the culture of what it is to be an Herbalife distributor, trying to make it. And there was a very interesting, I'm just going to write this down. Because when I say culture, what do you guys think about mostly when I say culture? What comes up for you? Yeah, different cultures. Okay, so we know that the people, like, everybody's well aware that we have a very fast-growing Latin part of our business in Herbalife here. I mean, it's almost impossible to notice. They're going to be next door and they're going to be making so much noise during the weekend. It's almost possible. So, and I love it because they say, well, it's normal, because the Latin people, they're just so warm-hearted. They just talk to everybody, and they're so family-orientated that if someone in the family has it and it's good for them, they want to share it with all the family. And we have people from Puerto Rico that are here. It's compassion, So but culturally, we kind of say, well, that's the way it is culturally. We know that, especially if you've ever been to Europe, that there's different countries and there's different cultures and so on and so forth. So I want you to think about that inside of Herbalife, there's a culture also. And there's a culture within the corporation, okay? So I'm sure that if you ever had the time to talk to any of the people that are here from the home office, they could share a little bit of culturally within Herbalife and so on and so forth. But there's also a very large culture within the distributor body. And it's a culture that, to be honest with you, outside of a few people here, we didn't even know it because we just came into it. I mean, some of them may have seen how the culture got created because they've been around long enough. But if you've only been around for a couple of years or for 10 years or even 15 years, you came into a business that was already a predetermined culture of the way things are, okay? And in a minute, we're going to look at it, and you're going to get clear how it really happens. But it's interesting because I went onto the internet, and there's on the Webster Merriam online dictionary, there's one that's specific to companies, and it says that culture, it's a set of standard, a set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterize and this is specific to companies or organizations, a company or organization. So, a set of shared attitudes, values, goals, practices, and practices that characterize a company or organization. Okay? So, attitudes, values, one of the things also in other definitions comes up behavior, attitudes and behavior that characterize. Okay? So, let's have a little bit of fun here. Okay? All of us in this room are leaders. All of us have learned from STS's, our uplines, leadership weekends. We've all learned about the attitudes, the practices, the values that we need to have to make it in Herbalife. I mean, haven't we? So let's look at some of these things. So as leaders in the company, if you want to make it in this company, what are some of the things that you know you need to do or become to make it in Herbalife? Good, very good. You got to attend all the events. How many of you have heard that in meetings? Yeah, how many times? All right, a lot. What else? Okay, you got to, there was a personal development. Qualify for everything, right? Very good. Okay, product of the product. Oh, very good. But there was a good one. Who said it? No problem, right? How many of you that is like, no problem. Okay, fake it till you make it. Very good. That's a good one. Some of us got so good at faking it, we forgot to make it. You know. Okay, fake it till you make it. Okay, yeah, everything is unbelievable. Okay, what else? What else? Right, massive action. Action, okay, equals massive results. What's the other one? Action solves? Everything, right? Okay. Isn't it? Action solves everything. If it only did, wouldn't that be cool, right? Okay, what else? Oh, just do more. I like that. Just do more. Write this down. Right, keep it simple. What else? Never quit. That's a good one. Whatever you do, never quit. Oh, that's another one. All you got to do is just hang around the flagpole. Okay, yeah. Okay. If it's not working, it's because you're not working. Is that it? Okay, what else? Oh, very good. Attitude is everything. Oh. Okay, what else? Okay, duplicate. You got to learn how to duplicate. Ah, very good. There you go. Now we're getting to the good stuff. It's a numbers game. Here's one. I don't know if you guys heard this. Some will. Oh, yeah. I thought that was in it. Some won't. So what? Next. Okay, all right. What else? What? 3, 2, 1. Very good. What else? Put your blinders. All distractions are equal. Very good. All right. Okay. Who do you know? Very good. Okay, what else? Let's not get personal here. This is kind of okay. Now you know the direction the conversation is turned. I think we'll stop things there. Okay. All right. So all of these things, okay? Okay, back out of the gutter, guys. Come on, let's go. Okay, so all of these things, all of these attitudes and values, okay, practices and behaviors, okay, that you and I have been taught over and over and over again, and that we teach our people over and over again, you know, this is really what creates what being a leader in Herbalife is all about. It really is. I mean, this is what we hear from the front of the room. This is what we tell our downline. You know, that is what we create as what it means to be an Herbalife leader and to make it an Herbalife. Now, behind this is something, okay? But we're going to get to that in a second. So look at how you are with your people. Like if people aren't making it in your organization or your leaders, they call you and they have, you know, something that's going on for them, we always come back to this. We always come back and we say, well, you know, your attitude is just not, you know, don't you know attitude is everything? That's why it's not happening. We come back to just go do more. We come back to, you know, qualify for everything. The reason why your people aren't doing it is because you're not doing it. We come back to really this. And this is really what we have to fall back on. And what it hides, in a certain sense, okay, is something. There's something behind that this is the resolution to for us as a culture of an organization. What do you think is behind that has all of these things be in play? All of these things be what we tell our people and the answer to everything for us. Because that is the answer to everything for us. We've heard it on stage. We've said it so many times to our people. The answer to making it in Herbalife is all of that. Okay? If that's the answer, and all of those things that have become really now this attitude, the behavior, this culture that we have with being a leader in Herbalife and making it, what is it protecting us from, or what is it covering up that's there as a reality for us? Yeah, there's an inauthenticity, but DJ, at a different level, because for some people it'll show up that way, but for some people it won't. What do you know about your people making it in this business as a reality for you? You what? Yeah. Isn't there like a reality that you know most of your people are not going to make it? Yeah. It's like, it's a reality. And what DJ's talking about is inauthentic in a sense. I don't know if that's exactly it, but let me voice it this way, is we sell people on a dream business that they can make it. Yet deep down inside, what do we really know? Yeah. We know that the reality is that most of them aren't going to make it. So when we're talking to people and when we're telling them and signing them up into our business and we're telling them and having the promise of what can happen in the future, a lot of times what's really there is that, you know what, they had sure as heck better be products of the products, because if they're going to make it in this business, that's got to happen. Because you know what? It ain't easy to make it in Herbalife. That if they don't have a great attitude, and if they're not the kind of people that have a great attitude, you better, you know, you can already just, it's not going to happen for them. We look for those kinds of people. Our whole business success revolves around looking for people like that and having people become like that, because we know that it's not easy and that it's going to be a percentage. Our business of us making it revolves around that. You know, how many of you, every time something doesn't go your way, you go back to that? Am I being a product of the product? Is my attitude straight? Am I in action? Yeah, am I walking the talk? Okay? So here's the thing. There's a reality to our business that it's just not easy to make it. And that's just the reality. And yet, yeah, well, I don't know about that, but that's